There are places I remember. Help! I need somebody help, not just anybody.
Kayla's brain is undergoing some intense reorganisation at this time of her life. Just before she hit adolescence, there was a significant growth in the synaptic connections between the cells in her brain. And so developmentally, she was capable of taking in lots of information, like maths and science. Now she's an adolescent, her brain is starting to remove those synapses that aren't as important and making the important synapses more effective through myelination. Her prefrontal cortex, or the executive functioning centre of her brain, is also not fully developed. As a result, she may be more prone to risk-taking with the older adolescents she's hanging around with. With regards to cognition, Kayla's forgetfulness demonstrates that this is still under development. She may still be in what the theorist Piaget calls the concrete operational stage, and, in the words of Arnett, not yet be able to transfer reasoning to situations and problems that require students to think systematically about possibilities and hypotheses, which is the kind of reasoning that may be expected in a Year 7 maths or science class. She may be struggling to interpret this new information into her current schemas. It could also be that the novel information in these subjects is beyond the capacity of her working memory, and so she is struggling with the cognitive load. These struggles could be further exacerbated if she is struggling to understand the language that content is presented in. Kayla's physical maturity may help explain a few parts of her story. Firstly, this is what most likely drew the attention of the older adolescents who, given their track record and the research cited, may then introduce her to substance abuse and delinquency. Secondly, she may not like to associate with peers her own age because she cannot easily identify with people who are less mature than her. It is worth noting that the effects of early maturation can be especially negative for girls like Kayla. They are at risk of many problems, including depressed mood, negative body image, and eating disorders. For adolescents like Kayla, there are many competing social contexts, such as peers, school, and family, to navigate. Their friendships rule over all other relationships, providing instrumental and esteemed support that can be related to classroom participation and peer acceptance. Kayla appears to lack this type of positive friendship in her immediate age group, and so may not benefit from its significance to learning. She has, however, found intimacy and similarity with older students. Her identity is being developed through this psychological choice to define herself by the characteristics of this clique, more so than the other social contexts she finds herself in, who instead may threaten that identity. We have seen from Kayla's story that she can be withdrawn and does not always attend class. It would appear from this reaction that Kayla also does not have adequate coping strategies to respond to perceived stresses, and so her reaction is akin to putting her head in the sand. Cognitive wiring for risk-taking may mean Kayla is likely to engage in other ineffective coping strategies with her clique. Hi Linda, it's Amy. I'd like to share with you a snapshot of the knowledge I have acquired that is informing and shaping my philosophy and approach to teaching. Firstly, I now appreciate the founding theories of cognitive development by Piaget, who espouses that changes in cognition proceed in stages and students process learning through currently known schemas of information. It is also relevant to understand the limitations of his theories, particularly the misjudgment of ages where children show evidence of movement between stages. Teachers must therefore consider how to differentiate their instruction regardless of the class demographic and introduce new information that can be assimilated or accommodated into student schemas. A particular strategy to do just this is authentic learning, where the teacher facilitates the use of real-life or simulated tasks that connect the learner directly with their world. In 2015, Jenny D reported on the New Zealand Product Development Challenge as an example in the key learning area of food technology. And to build on this further, whilst the cognitive construction of our students encourages us to expose them to as many learning experiences as possible before they prune too many synapses, this must be evaluated through empirical evidence on the model of information processing and working memory. Directing the attention of our students and delivering content with appropriate cognitive load should be the aim of our instruction. The implications for pedagogy are more straightforward than they sound. Strategically, this might look like providing students with headings when taking notes from texts, or physical integration of material to avoid split attention when teaching material with high intrinsic load. Just to note too that these strategies are appropriate for use in any key learning area. And now to touch on one last learning. It has been established that during adolescence, the executive functioning centre of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is still a work in progress. So the limbic system, where emotion is regulated, often takes control. Statistics on transport accidents and drug and alcohol use demonstrate a correlation between this development and the risk adolescent students take. Helping adolescents thrive and build resilience through prevention rather than intervention is key to changing these statistics. We can tackle well-being from several interconnected viewpoints. The first being positive psychology, or the science of well-being, that advocates a growth mindset, or the belief that of the individual that they can change. The second is social and emotional learning from the Collaborative for Academic, Social and Emotional Learning, who promote 5 core skills critical for good scholarship and citizenship. Once again, neither of these should go in the too hard basket for teachers. Research supports that the strategy of simply praising students' efforts results in improved achievement. Teachers can consistently include social learning activities in their instruction. So the jigsaw method created by Eric Aronson, that's how you say his name I think, may be useful for a food technology teacher like me to get students discussing specific issues in a class, or I could split students into groups for assessments and practical lessons. Finally, having teachers role model their coping techniques to their students would be desirable in any classroom. Thanks.
And I'm here to share my learning experiences throughout adolescent development, teaching and learning. Understanding that students are going through developmental changes physically and mentally, as a teacher I have learned to be more consistent, patient and compassionate towards students. Learning that many cognitive functions are differentiated and how they are associated with different parts of the brain helps me understand that different students might have preferred modes of processing and understanding what they're about to learn. For example, visual or verbal, as well as varying capabilities in these modes. Using a range of modalities for instruction and activities that draw on different senses may support learning. For example, using maps and images to teach in science. Applying Piaget theory in Vygotsky, I have learned that some students remain at a concrete operational stage throughout their school years or even throughout life. And so as a teacher, I have to ensure that students are learning from real-life problems and concrete experiences as they help students construct knowledge, and also gives them multiple pathways for learning and retrieving information. The brain seeks meaningful patterns and connection with existing network, and so as a teacher, I should tie new information to what students already understand and help them form new connection. As information that is not linked to existing knowledge will be easily forgotten by students. How user group work can provide a context for peer tutoring in zone of proximal development is something that I can use in my class as well. For example, building a skeleton together as, the whole class. Another thing too is understanding the biopsychosocial approach, how different factors interact to influence risk and resilience in adolescents. Considering this approach can help me in responding to troubled students by gathering information, looking for signs and risk factors. If more support is needed, then I can support by responding or listening to the person, and also involving others such as school counselors and promoting positive classroom or school environment. I really enjoyed this unit.